I talked to several Dollar Tree employees over the past few weeks, and one thing kept coming up over and over again, a specific list of discontinued items that employees themselves genuinely wish corporate would bring back. Not customer requests, not internet trends, the actual employees who stock these shelves every single day, telling me what they'd personally love to see return. By the end of this video, you'll know all 9. And number 4 came up in almost every single conversation I had. If you're new here, this channel covers what's really happening behind the scenes at Dollar Tree, not just what's currently on shelves. So if that's useful to you, go ahead and hit subscribe before we get into it. Quick note before we start, these aren't official statements from Dollar Tree Corporate. This is genuinely just what employees have told me directly in casual conversations while I was shopping or asking questions in store. Take it as real, on-the-ground insight rather than anything official. All right, let's get into it. Number 1, the heavy-duty cast iron style skillets from a couple years back. Multiple employees mentioned these specifically, saying customers still ask about them regularly even though they've been gone for a while. The current cookware lineup just doesn't have anything with the same weight and heat retention, and employees say they'd personally buy a few themselves if they came back, which honestly says a lot given how many products pass through their hands every single day. Number 2. The larger ceramic mixing bowl sets that used to come in a nested 3-piece set instead of individually. One employee told me she still gets asked about the old 3-piece set at least once a week, and that customers seem genuinely disappointed when she explains they're not sold as a set anymore, since buying 3 separate bowls individually ends up costing noticeably more than the old bundled option did. Number 3, the scented candle line from a couple autumns ago, specifically a cinnamon apple scent that apparently had a much stronger throw than anything currently on shelves. Several employees brought this one up unprompted, saying it was consistently one of their best-selling seasonal items before it was quietly replaced, and more than one mentioned customers specifically asking for it by scent name every single fall since it disappeared. And number 4, the one that came up almost every single time I asked, the thicker, more durable, reusable shopping bags from a couple of years back before the current thinner version replaced them. Employees say customers complain about the current bags tearing or wearing out fast, and more than one employee told me they specifically miss having a bag they could actually trust to hold a full load of groceries without worrying about it giving out halfway to the car. One employee even mentioned keeping a couple of the old bags for her own personal use, specifically because she doesn't trust the current version to hold up the same way. Number 5. The wider variety of ribbon spools that used to be available around the holidays before the ribbon section got noticeably smaller. A couple of employees who work the seasonal section specifically mentioned this, saying gift wrapping customers used to be some of their most consistent seasonal shoppers, and that the shrunken ribbon selection has noticeably reduced how much time people spend in that section now, based purely on what they've observed on the floor. Number 6. The larger glass mason jar sets that used to be sold in bulk packs instead of individually. One employee specifically mentioned canning and preserving customers being disappointed when the bulk option disappeared, since buying jars individually adds up fast compared to the old multi-pack pricing, especially for anyone doing a larger batch of preserving over a weekend. Number 7. The original version of a specific hand lotion that got reformulated at some point, with several employees mentioning that regular customers notice the scent and texture change immediately and have been asking when the old formula would return ever since, which is a level of brand loyalty you don't usually expect for a basic dollar store lotion. Number 8. The wider assortment of birthday and celebration balloons that used to include more number and letter options before the selection got trimmed down. Employees working the party section mentioned this one specifically, saying customers now frequently have to settle for a different color or size than what they actually came in looking for, which isn't ideal when someone's shopping for a specific birthday theme on a tight timeline. And number 9, closing out the list. The larger notebook and planner selection that used to be available before the office section got condensed to make room for other categories. A couple of employees specifically mentioned back-to-school shoppers being disappointed by the smaller selection compared to previous years, particularly parents looking for a specific style or size that used to be a reliable option every August. So why do items like this get discontinued in the first place if employees and customers both clearly want them back? It usually comes down to a mix of shelf space decisions and supplier changes happening at a level far above what any individual store or employee actually has input into. When corporate decides to test a new category or expand an existing one, something else typically has to make room, and decisions about which specific products get cut are made based on broader sales data across the entire chain, not necessarily on how popular an item feels at any one specific location. It's also worth understanding that employee feedback, even when it's consistent across many different stores, doesn't always make it back to the corporate decision makers who control these choices. Frontline employees hear customer complaints and requests directly and repeatedly, but there isn't always a clear, formal channel for that feedback to travel from the sales floor all the way up to a merchandising or purchasing decision, which is part of why a genuinely popular discontinued item can stay gone for years, even when the people working the register hear about it constantly. Corporate decisions tend to be driven by aggregated sales numbers and supplier negotiations rather than anecdotal feedback, even when that feedback is remarkably consistent across dozens of different locations. That said, it's not unheard of for a previously discontinued item to eventually return, especially if a category gets revisited during a broader merchandising refresh. Retailers do periodically reassess past decisions, particularly when a specific gap keeps showing up in customer complaints or return-related conversations across enough locations to get noticed internally. A few employees mentioned that items occasionally do reappear after enough time passes, sometimes under a slightly different name or packaging, which suggests some of this feedback does eventually filter upward, even if it takes much longer than anyone on the sales floor would prefer. So what should you actually do with this information? First, if there's a discontinued item you genuinely miss, it's worth mentioning it directly to an employee next time you're in store, since enough repeated requests at enough different locations can occasionally influence what corporate revisits during a future planning cycle, even if that influence isn't guaranteed or immediate. Employees genuinely do pass along customer feedback more often than people assume, even if it doesn't always translate into a fast result. Second, keep an eye on seasonal resets specifically, since discontinued items are more likely to make a reappearance during a broader category refresh than at a random point during the year. If there's a seasonal item on this list you're hoping comes back, checking in right as that season approaches each year gives you the best odds of catching it if it ever does return. And third, don't assume something is gone forever just because it's been missing for a while, since a few of these 9 items have apparently come close to returning before, based on what a couple of employees mentioned, only to get pushed back again during a later planning cycle. Retail decisions like this can take years to fully play out, so patience combined with the occasional friendly request is really the only realistic strategy here. If you found this interesting, Let me know in the comments which discontinued item you personally miss the most, whether it's on this list or something completely different, because I genuinely love to compile a follow-up list based on what people share. Make sure you're subscribed, because I'm planning to check back in with a few of these same employees down the line to see if any of this ever actually changes. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.